Okay, so welcome everybody to Introduction to Research, which is being put on as a collaboration between myself, Janet Bell, with the ERLC and the University of Alberta. And those of you who are in with our group, we had sent some resources out ahead of time. So there was like quick little, I think it's 10 minutes all together, finding research topic ideas, popular and scholarly sources, and synthesizing and evaluating information. And these were videos that have been made by the U of A libraries. And so they're part of your package. And then the other piece in slide 2 of this presentation, which let me just share this link, copy link address. So this is the presentation today. And so the big takeaway is, it says today's takeaway is this press book. And so this press book is basically an APA style citation tutorial, and you can download it, you can read it, and Carolyn can talk to it. If you'd like to say anything about it, Carolyn, before I move on to the proper title page and introduce you.
No, I think we'll wait until we get there in the presentation.
Okay. So I'd like to introduce Carolyn. She's the librarian with Arts and Education at the University of Alberta Library. And it's been great for me this year to be working side by side with her in some of the sort of back-end planning for this course. One of the things that we learned last year in Edmonton Public and Edmonton Catholic was, you know, when you've been a busy teacher for many years and you haven't, it's years since you've been writing papers, to be able to have a refresher given by somebody who really knows what they're doing is really valuable. And so we kind of glossed over the research thing last year, but this year I believe that it's not only having the support through sessions like this, where Carolyn can share her expertise, but also the fact that we can get to know her. And then as we move into the summer, she will be an ongoing contact for you, along with her colleague, Debbie. So it's welcome aboard, Carolyn, and thank you so much for being part of this journey with us.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm just going to click in here and pull up my speaker notes so that I will remember which of the slides that I'm presenting. Okay, so when we talked to Mike Carbonero about what exactly would be the type of topic that you would be choosing as a research topic, this is a direct quote from his email back to us. So he said, in your essay or in your paper, the overarching theme involves the integration / use of technology in schools, ideally to support and/or enhance teaching, learning, and problem solving. So that's a very wide topic, lots of latitude in that. And this little video here that I think to make best use of our time, I'm not going to play. I can't remember if we played it last time or not, but it's a quick little 3-minute video. And I did rewatch it myself this afternoon. And what it says is it talks a little bit about coming up with ideas for your topic, and it gives good tips that can help you in terms of coming up with a topic. So it talks about your general topic and then coming up with, it says 3 keywords to search. And then it talks about if your search is bringing up lots and lots of information, then probably you need to refine it and choose 3 different words. So it's just a little 3-minute long video. Recommend it when you're actually getting to that place of starting to research. Go back and take a look at this topic. Any questions about this incredibly wide challenge? Feel free to unmute and ask them, or you can type in the chat. Okay, I'll keep an eye on the chat and we'll keep going. So when you're writing, so a little bit about my background for those of you who don't know me. I'm an EdTech consultant with ERLC. But my background is as I was an English major and I was an English teacher for some years. Excuse me. And so part of the role of what I did when I worked at Lillian Osborne High School here in Edmonton is is I supported the IB kids when they wrote their extended essays. And so when we did that, we'd all come into the library together and we talk about different types of papers and the research process. So that's the part of my journey that I'm pulling upon a little bit, probably a little rusty now too, like our paper writing skills. But anyway, there are two types of papers that really fit what Mike is talking about. And the way I see it is that it may be that the type of, like one type of paper or the other will gravitate to you, just depending on who you are and the way you think. So the first type of paper is called an experiential paper. And so for me, I'm kind of one of those constellation type thinker type people. And I think this is the kind of paper that I would really enjoy writing. So this would be one that fits me, but I know lots of people, it would not be the thing for them. And so what this is, it's called the Kolb model. And this little guide is from, I think it was the University of Cape Town. And it talks about how it's looking at the relationship between learning and experience. So I'm one of those people, I'm always like, well, I did this. Wow, now I learned this. How am I going to apply that next time? Maybe I should test it. I'm like that kind of person. And so it says, it divides it right into the sections. Section 1 is concrete experience, and then it gives you some questions that you could ask when reflecting on that. Section 2 is your reflective observation. So you stand back from the experience that you had. The section 3 is abstract conceptualization. So then you're kind of analyzing it and synthesizing it. Then you're testing it, and then you're concluding from there. And so in this handout, it gives you an outline, and it tells you, so you can basically jump through these hoops. I have an introduction, I have my experience, I have my observation, and it tells you what, and it even gives you language. So these are the kinds of ways that you can write in each of these. Now, the one thing that Mike has said is that that we're to have, what is it, 6 or 8, I forget, citations of scholarly articles, and we're going to talk more about that later, but you need to make sure that you are weaving those in through your writing throughout. So that's a little bit of an intro to the experiential paper. And then the lit review would be, I think, the type that would appeal to those of you who are more, I would like to learn about this. Let's gather everything together, piece it together, see, like, get a better sense of it, like that type of thinker. So if you're that sort of person, or you just want to, whatever, like if you just want to learn more about a topic, do a deep dive into that topic, then both the U of A library site here has a comprehensive section on writing a lit review. And then also there's a simpler explanation from the University of Toronto where it says, what is a lit review? Ask yourself these questions. Ask yourself these questions about each book or article you include in final notes. So those will be good resources for you if you're going to go ahead and write it as a lit review. And Carolyn can get more into this as we start going. I'll just paste that link. I know some others have. There you go. That's the presentation in the chat again. So the question for you to unmute and talk or just write in the chat is, when you think of, oh no, we're not quite there yet. Oh well, the question I'm going to ask you in a minute, you can start thinking about is, what is research? But we're not there yet. We thought, Carolyn and I thought we would find a nice quote about the research process. You know, something inspiring, talk about constellation thinking or whatever. And so first we found this one. If at first you don't succeed, search, search again. That's why we called it research. So it kind of is the practicality of researching. It's like over and over and over. And then we thought, is that capturing everything about research? And then we thought, well, no, because you have to remember the path traveled, right? And so that's where we came across this quote. And we thought, who says it better than Oprah? You get a citation and you get a citation. Everybody gets a citation. So a little bit of irony there, maybe. But the exciting thing, of course, about research is that as you grapple with the topic and the questions that come out of that topic and go deeper down that rabbit hole, you can learn things and tie ideas together that you never would have necessarily anticipated as as you get deeper into it. And I think that's why people go back and look further. I'm going to turn it over to Carolyn to talk about this more serious definition of research.
Thanks, Janet. So we looked up in the Merriam-Webster what is research, and very briefly, it's to search or investigate exhaustively and then research a problem. So that's the transitive verb. There's also an intransitive verb to engage in research. And so it's a very straightforward definition. Can I get
I love the word exhaustively in there, right?
Yeah. Okay, next slide.
And the next slide.
This one's yours.
So as we write our papers, and this is the English teacher in me, of course, we're engaging in the research process and we're also engaging in the writing process. And the one is really like a subset of the other. And so, of course, when you're writing, and many of you will know this because you work with kids on this, but you have your topic, you have your working thesis, and then you have research. We'll just gloss over that. And then you may have a rough little outline. Maybe you're doing a bunch of pre-writing stuff where you're going to like shift where your outline might actually go. You might find this is quite recursive. Then you confirm, yeah, this is where I'm going. I'm going to write my draft. I'll revise for content. I'll revise it, put on my editor lens and revise it for style, and then write my footnotes of bibliography. But that's kind of in a perfect world, because what you're really doing is you're thinking, okay, I think I'm going to write about, the evolving definition of digital literacy during a pandemic. Okay, so that's going to be my topic, which I think would be a cool topic. Then I'm going to start brainstorming all my notes. What do I think? What are my questions? What might be some words I want to research? And then as I start looking, there's this whole other process in there that in a minute, Carolyn's going to take us into and look at how we can best find the resources that we want to find. So this is really, I think if you were to, like, if this is the start of the line, the timeline, and this is the finish, this is really like the most extensive part. It's like the rest of this is almost should be pushed over to the side. Most of your time is really going to be spent in this part here. And then that, I think, is where it takes us to the question. And so maybe just mention in the chat, or feel free to unmute your mic and say, like, why do research? Why would we do research? What's the purpose? Why would we do research? This is that teacher pause.
I would think one of the reasons I would do research is, as a leader in the school, I want to launch off solid ideas for my staff, like to bring that forward. This is what research says. Let's start in this spot and see where we go. But I don't want to just be pie in the sky type of thing. I would like to launch off of something that's been maybe tried and true or proven.
Yeah, there's something it's much more accountable to be working from a place of evidence. As we've seen lots of that in various ways in the world. There's great ideas coming up in the chat. I'll just give you a minute to read over them. I won't read them all aloud. I'll just read them to myself. Yeah. Some of the other ideas that Carolyn and I were exploring were to, and And a lot of this is what you've said too, the idea of reviewing existing knowledge and also synthesizing it, and to investigate existing situations or problems, provide solutions to problems, to explore and analyze issues, to construct or create new products or systems, explain new phenomena. What's this virus, right? Generate new knowledge, combination of any of the above. So research, so important in every field, including education. This is where I turn it over to you, Carol, and she's going to take us in a little bit more depth upon through some constructs of the research process itself.
Okay. So we've got a kind of a circular vision here of what the research process looks like. And of course, one of the things that happens when we do research, and we touched on this in the why do the research, is to explore the background. So that's actually a great starting place. And then you want to develop your research topic, and then you want to find your sources, and you need to evaluate your sources as well. And we'll talk about how you can do that in a bit more detail in a little bit. Then you will need to use and cite your sources. And ultimately, you are creating new knowledge. And in this case, for your course, you'll be creating a research paper. Can we have the next slide? Thanks. So again, another circular vision of what the research process looks like. This one refers to things you can do in each stage. So analyze, use your research tools, do some searching, evaluate what you found, record and report. And then you see the circle keeps going. So, you know, it continues on, and you may go through the cycle more than once as you do your research. And then just to confuse things a little bit more, we have a different image, and just to show you that it isn't always as circular as the last two graphics made it look. Sometimes it can be quite messy, and you reach a certain part in the process and then you backtrack and go to the beginning. Maybe you've picked a topic and no one's done the research, enough research in that area for you to be able to do what you need to do. So you go back and revise your question. So just remember that it's not as simple as some of those circular diagrams show.
I like those words across the top. I think a lot of us as educators are patterns people, because we're looking for patterns in what we teach, in the behavior of our students, like it's all, and I think it's that starting at that place of uncertainty and looking for patterns and finding insights from that, reaching clarity. Mm-hmm. That's kind of neat too.
So can we get the next slide, please? So if you're thinking about how to come up with your topic, there are some publications, of course, that you can use and that I'm sure your students use sometimes too when they're getting to know about a topic. And so we think about things like dictionaries and encyclopedias. If you don't know a topic very well, of course, we know students often use Wikipedia these days. And librarians are kind of moving more towards liking Wikipedia. I don't know if that's happening in the schools, but we're not as against Wikipedia as we used to be. Then as you go down the upside down pyramid here, we have textbooks and topic overviews for more detailed information. Then we have academic books. And finally, we have articles. And usually those are research articles. In the case of what we'll be looking for in this course, we will be looking for the research articles. Okay, and then we have another diagram here. And this kind of goes through from the bottom, we have our popular sources. And so those could be, popular magazines, newspapers, that kind of thing. We have our general or professional interest. So maybe you've got a trade magazine or a professional newsletter, something like that. And then we have academic at the top. And then at the very top, sort of a subset within academic, is the peer-reviewed publications. So we go from the more commercial to the more scholarly. Now for peer-reviewed, let's see, we're on the next one.
Should I go back?
So I'm not going to play these videos, but we do have a couple of different videos here, just if you need a refresher to go back to later on. So we want you to be finding peer-reviewed articles that are published in journals. So that begs a couple of questions, of course. So what is a journal and what is peer review? So can somebody take a stab at telling me what a journal is? You can put it in the chat or unmute. What do you think a journal is? An academic publication, yep. Does anybody want to build on that? A compilation of ideas on a topic or subject. Yes, that certainly is often the case. The journals are often published in certain disciplines and even sub-disciplines with a very strong focus on a topic. A collection of work that is made through publishing your research and having peers review it. Well, yes, that actually answers the second question, what is peer review? So basically, the journals will have an editorial board and they'll have reviewers. And before something can be published in a journal, what will happen is, let's say Mike wants to publish an article in a journal, he will submit it, and then the reviewers, the people in charge of the journal, will send the article out to other people who know his area of study within his field, and they will take a look at how he has written up his research. Does it make sense? Did he use methods that actually worked? Did he prove his hypothesis or not? And how did he present that to readers? And so the other people that will read this are experts in that particular subject area, and they will have the knowledge to be able to maybe make some suggestions for how to improve the writing, or if there's a problem with a method or methodology, they might say, you have to go back and redo this piece and then write it up just that piece again. And then it will generally be accepted by the journal for publication. So that's what the peer review process refers to. So it's different than your popular magazine or newspaper where someone works for that particular product. Yep. Oh, we're going into, yeah, no, we can just go to the next slide.
Yeah, I think, I'm not quite sure what happened there. I think we had two identical slides or something.
Okay.
And then,
so anyway, so if you need a refresher on what a journal is, you can look at those videos, and we need peer-reviewed journal articles only. Now, here's one of the catches. So, and we'll look at this in more detail in the second session, but when you're searching in the databases, you will see, I'll show you the options where you can limit, and you can limit to peer review scholarly articles only, which is a help, except that sometimes the journals will publish things that are not review or not research articles. So they might publish book reviews, editorials, or opinion pieces, that kind of thing. And so I recently had a student who was confused because she had selected the option for the peer-reviewed article. And then she presented it to her professor as, this is one article I would like to use for my paper. And the professor said, well, this article is not peer-reviewed. And so she wanted to know why. And so we took a look at the article, and it was published in the journal, but it fell more into the category of professional literature as opposed to peer-reviewed research. So we're going to look at a few other ways here to identify what a scholarly journal article looks like. And Janet, have we got the next slide up? Yeah, so here's part of a page of a journal article. And if you're lucky, you can see one of the elements here is the word journal shows up in the title. That's not always going to be the case, but it's a pretty big clue. And then we have some other clues here on this page. We can see we have an abstract. So that describes the article. And if you read through that, you can see that that's a research article. We have some keywords that point us to what the article is about. And then we also have a publication date. Sometimes it's an accepted date. But all of those things point me to the fact that that might be a research article. So if we can see the next slide, please. So then we have the author's names and affiliations down below. And so you want to be looking for whether someone might be a professor at a university or working at a research institute, that sort of thing. We can see we have .edu in our email addresses there for the authors. So those are some good clues that they work in academia. And then you can see we have an introduction and a theoretical background. So those are often categories within a journal article that you might see. And if we can see the next page. And then as you go through, there's often, you'll see a number of different categories, including a discussion of the research and a section that draws conclusions about the research. And then at the very end, you will see your list of references or a bibliography. And you'll also maybe see an annex or appendices that give us more information. And often throughout the articles, we will also have tables, charts, graphs that show the results of the research broken down in more detail. So those are some clues that when you're looking at articles, you want to look for those things to help determine if they're a peer-reviewed research article. And then when we're doing our searching, and we'll cover this much more broadly in a second session, but you will need to be thinking about your keywords. So for your topic, what are the keywords that represent your topic, or what are the phrases? And you might have synonyms, and it's good to think about these things and maybe jot them down so you don't forget. We will also use our Boolean operators, which are often in the library databases. They're built into the search engine so that we don't forget about those, and narrows your search or broadens your search, and the not will eliminate things from your search. Something else we'll see are subject headings or descriptors. So we might just use keywords that we think of in sort of the natural conversational language, but the database might use different phrases or words for the subject headings or descriptors. And then finally, we have limiters to help narrow down the focus. So maybe you only want to look at the last 5 years of published articles on your topic. You want to look at publication types, language, what database you're using, of course, is key. So we'll take a look at those things in more detail, and you can, as I said, narrow down to the peer-reviewed journals. So we'll take a look at how to do that as well. And so then the next thing that we need to be thinking about, of course, once we find some information, is evaluate it to determine if it's useful for our purposes. And so these are some of the key areas to think about. And some of these may be more relevant than others for your project. It depends, but currency is important. So when was the article written? Relevance. How relevant is it? Accuracy. Is it fact or opinion? Is the information accurate? So maybe you want to compare it to other information that you found to check that. You want to see who the author is. And so you want to see if it talks about what their credentials are, where else they maybe have published. And then the purpose. So what is the purpose of something being written and published? So in the case of the peer review research articles, the purpose is to move research in that field forward, generally. The article could be to inform. So something in a popular magazine could be informational. There could be an informational article about a research study. It's easier to read in the popular sources. Is the purpose to sell something or to convince someone of an argument? So how is something biased? And of course, this is really important right now as we think about the fake news and misinformation and disinformation that's circulating online. Purpose is a really important item that we need to be thinking about, and also why we want to focus on the peer-reviewed journals in this class and not just going out and Googling to find our sources.
Well, as you write and format your paper, you need to be able to manage your information. And it's interesting how things have shifted over the years now that we have the ability to use online tools or tools on our other devices. And so we have on this page a list of citation management tools. The one that I've kind of enjoyed playing with is actually Mendeley. And I'll just show you. I made an account just on their website just this afternoon, and I did like even within here, I was able, not with a library account, as I was able to search a number of databases from who knows where on language that had to do with the idea of digital citizenship and the pandemic. And so these were, I was able to very quickly select some open PDFs that I could explore. And then when I click on each of them, I can get the PDF downloaded, I can read it, I can go into it and annotate it. I can take sections from it and keep notes or type my own notes from it, and it keeps it all managed so that I can come back to that later. This is the you get a citation and you get a citation part of our presentation. So I thought that one was kind of fun. The library, right, takes me back to this page. Actually, I should click into it so you can see what it looks like when you're reading. So you see when I'm reading the article, it just pulls it up like this. And I can go in, I can click on here to annotate or write comments. I can choose my highlighter color. And then that's where I get to my annotations. makes this little thing here. And my notebook. So it would be a very intuitive way to do what we would have gone all the way into the library and searched and made a Xerox copy and then annotate all over it. You know, you can just do it wherever you are. So that one is called Mendeley. Carolyn, I'm curious what you would say about some of these other ones. I know Zotero is one that you can pull in, you can download Zotero onto your device, but there's also a Chrome extension. So wherever you are online, you can just add it to your Zotero. You can also, inside Google Docs, you can like create your citations right within Google. It actually adds a Zotero item right on your menu itself that you would click and then use within Google Docs. EndNote is one I think that is quite popular these days. Google Citations are evolving, but RefWorks is one I remember using at university, and I know things are shifting with funding and stuff, so I don't know if you can talk to that.
Yes, so we will have RefWorks available to the university until October, and then it will be going away. It's part of the university's budget cuts because of the government cuts. And so the library was given, you know, X amount of money that had to be cut from its budget. And we just didn't have enough of what we would call power users. And maybe some of you are power users of RefWorks, but so just to mention that, if you have used it or if you're entering into the full MES program already with this course, if you're going to use RefWorks, just keep in mind it will be going away in October. And so you might want to think about using one of these other free sources now, or be prepared to move anything that you've got over to one of those free sources in the next few months, maybe after you're done with the course. So our apologies on that, but it's a money saving issue. And these other products have really developed over time to be just as good or better in some ways. And so
which would you use, Carolyn, if you were doing a research paper right now? And I'm sure it's probably depends on people's, one will fit one person better than another.
Well, I took a look at Zotero. I was supposed to do some training on both Mendeley and Zotero last week, and something came up and I ended up missing both sessions. So I haven't had a chance to review them both in detail recently. So I will obviously be doing that over the summer. And there are videos available from both Zotero and Mendeley if you want to learn how to use them. There should be some. There's lots of help information, and I think they both have YouTube channels where you can go if you want a quick overview and then to get more detailed information on how to use the different features. The one thing I did notice when I was using Zotero back in the fall, it sometimes interfered with my use of some of the library's databases for some reason. So, and I got kind of frustrated with that. So that is what it is. You might find if it, gets in the way of when you're trying to use your computer for other things, maybe you want to remove it temporarily, and then when you need it, put back the little icon that allows you to just grab anything, because I found it blocked a few things. So.
Oh, conflicting extensions.
Well, and there may be a way around that when I get a chance to do the fuller training, that I can show.
Oh, the way around it might be to disable it. Yeah.
Well, that's what I did at the time, just because it made my life easier. But you may need it. So, I mean, RefWorks is fine. It's just that it's not something to use if you're jumping into a big project that's going to run past October, because then you'll need to move your work over.
And you'll see that I haven't seen that video, so who knows if it's any good, but there's Learn Zotero in 30 minutes. And I just put the link to it in the speaker notes on this for this page. So you'll have that in your notes. Okay, I made a couple of screenshots here actually. So this is also when I was searching in Mendeley, this was back in February. There's Mendeley screenshot, and here is an EndNote, a screenshot from the EndNote Getting Started guide. And I believe these were from my iPad. So I had these both on my iPad. I did go back today to check the Mendeley app, and I couldn't see it in the App Store. I do have it installed. There was another one called, I can't remember. I think I have it on that last slide. Papership, that's it. I noticed an app called Papership, which actually pulls in from Mendeley and EndNote, I think from two of those together. So that might be another one to play with. But again, you'll see it's very, it's interesting to see like how many people are citing it already, and how many people are reading this article. It gives you a sense of its popularity for whatever reason that might be. So any questions before we hand it back to Carolyn? Well, the questions could be for Carolyn before we dive deeply into the world of citations.
And I saw a question about what ID do we use. Actually, that's not how you set yourself up. I was just looking to see if I can find, I may have to follow up with Janet to answer that question later, and she can forward along the answer to that, because I'm not finding it quickly. But we do have a research guide on how to use RefWorks, so that's what I'm thinking. Maybe I can get you that information. It's trying to take me to the login, so I'll have to find that later and get that sent along to you.
And would it be similar for the others as well? Or is it just for RefWorks that there's a different method?
It's just for the university subscribes to RefWorks. So the other ones are just like open apps for managing citations.
Okay.
And so, of course, then we want to think more about our citation style. And for education, we typically use the American Psychological Association citation and format. And we have a quick guide here on the screen. So,
boom. So click on it to get to it.
Yeah, and this is available from the library homepages as well. And so the first page gives you a brief overview on how to format the author and date information, both in text and in the parenthetical and in your sentence citations there. And then you'll see we have journal article citation options, magazines, and so on. So it goes on for several pages. Janet, if you can go back down to the very end of it, you'll see we've got it, there we go, we've got it color coded. So the anatomy of a citation, just to kind of help the bits and pieces of it stand out in more detail. And then an explanation of what each thing is. And if you see a DOI in the database, capture that rather than the URL for it, because the DOI it's called the digital object identifier, and that's meant to be like the permanent URL for that particular citation. And what that does is then allows your professor to go in and take a look at that article if they want to follow up and read what you were reading too. And if you give them the URL at the top of the screen, that's from your search session, and so that will not work for your professor, because they don't know, they won't have the search saved in their computer the way you might. So that's just a quick guide that we have available. Of course, we also have the manuals available. We can't really get to those physical manuals right now since we're not in the libraries. So it's handy to use something like this quick guide.
Having the samples to me is the most valuable because you just look for one that looks like yours and substitute the words.
Yep, and that's how I learned how to do it.
Yeah.
Only I worked with the manual. This is much easier.
Yeah.
And so
right.
we've got the link here if you want to hop into the document and see those examples of the journal.
Oh, that's the same place
So
there. Yeah.
yeah. So we can go to the next one. And so here we are at the citation tutorial. So this is a book that my colleague Debbie and Sarah put together for us. And it's actually kind of a guided tutorial where you can walk through each piece of it and then stop and answer some questions to see if you're grasping the concept or not. And you can reuse those tutorials. So if you look at it now and then you don't look at it again until the end of July when you're hopefully getting to the point of finishing up your paper, maybe you want to go through it again at that point in time. The tutorial questions will work for you. So you see we've got some of the similar kinds of graphics, some samples of what an article looks like. And then there eventually comes to be some questions based on some of these. And so you'll walk through those, but they're reusable. So if you need them again, you can always.
This question.
Yeah. So you can use them more than once. And we didn't make any changes to the tutorial for you. It was originally written, I think, for the first year English class or education classes, but it's something that is very well put together, and we really didn't think it was helpful to just take it all apart and try to rebuild something similar. So if some of the examples don't work for you, that's okay. But this is an open publication. So this is actually something that you can keep as a resource beyond the course as well. And you can, of course, share it with others as you see fit, because it's free and open and available on the web.
Yeah, I know if I were at the school right now, I'd be sharing this with the IB kids. It'd be great for them.
So then just a reminder, so some of these videos that we have pointed you to, and I'll answer your question shortly, Kyoko. So we have all these different videos, some of which we had pointed out to you to help understand the different parts of the research process. The tutorials break it down a little further and go into more detail. Each video is about 2 or 3 minutes, and there are transcripts as well. So if you prefer to read along or read the tutorial instead of watching the video, that's available to you as well. And so we just wanted to remind you that those are there because they're meant to help you with your work. And I will probably tomorrow or Thursday, I will put those into the e-class library block. There should be a library block that points you to a few resources, and I'm going to be adding a few more specifically for your course. And so these are one of the things I will be adding so that you'll have them right there as a resource when you're in class. So just to sum up here, we just want to remind you, research is a process. It's not always as circular as it appears on this image, but you might go around the circle several times. You might back up and park on one of the previous spots again before you proceed. And that's just normal. That's part of doing research. It means you're stopping and thinking about things and maybe evaluating your sources and realizing I don't have enough, or these don't help me enough to prove my point I'm arguing. And so you have to go back and maybe find a few more sources. And so just remember that I'm here through the summer, through your course, and I am available to do one-on-one consultations. If you need help after the second session, we can certainly, I can set meetings with you. You can contact me directly, or you can go in through the various ways to ask to meet with me through the library, and a message will get to me, and then I will get back in touch with you to set up a time. So Janet, I saw we did have at least one question. So how do I access? Okay.
Would you like to share your screen and show us, Carolyn?
Sure.
I'll stop sharing.
Okay, I can't.
Oh, because, yeah, let me just, I can change that. Advanced sharing options. Who can share? All participants. Okay, you should be able to share now. So while Carolyn's pulling that up, so those of you in the ERLC component, we had been, as you know, throwing around like the idea of maybe setting up a time where we can maybe meet and just talk about potential topics together. And I was thinking our second session, is it next week? Is the first one? I can't remember for sure, but I know it's coming up quite quickly. So what I'll do is within the next day, hopefully this evening, I'll get in and look at some potential dates for that. And then we could do a session where we basically come, bring yourself a cup of tea, and we can talk about some potential topics together. Use each other as sounding boards.
There we go. Thank you, Ashley, for putting in the question, because I was trying to find the chat. So there's the URL for the library. It's library.ualberta.ca. And that is the homepage for the library. And one of the new things we have, of course, is information about the COVID library services, because whatever's happening provincially impacts what kind of services in person the library can offer and whether the libraries are allowed to be open or not. Right now, we are not allowed to be open. And so you can't actually even get a computer in the Cameron Library right now. Hopefully that will change over the summer if anybody's in Edmonton and wants to come and work in library space. We do currently have curbside pickup. So if you're searching and you find a book that's only in print in the building and you want to go and get the book, you can place it on hold, and then you come in here to this curbside pickup option and walk your way through these instructions, and it will let you place the book on hold for curbside pickup, and then you go over in person. And that's available at both the Augustana campus and the North campus in Edmonton. So we'll cover that in more detail in next week's session as well, when we look at the overall library page. But if anybody wants to explore things now, there's your URL. And if you have any problems with access right now, certainly keep a record of it so you can ask me about it next week. But we have this little chat box where you can type in and ask a question, or say I'm having trouble accessing, my account doesn't seem to be working. So you can let somebody know, and then they can see what they can do to help get your account up and running. Oh, we have another question. Let me see. Oh, the chat people are amazing. Oh, that's great. I'm glad to hear that. Yes, I know everybody works hard. So just keep in mind that, you know, we're in spring session. So whatever posted hours are available for chat over spring and summer sessions are, you'll be able to see those hours, but you can also see when people are available. There's this little green available sign that tells you when there's someone there. And also way up at the top of the page here, we have this little chat with us button. And if you look at it for long enough, you can see that it's kind of moving. So if you see it looking like it's kind of moving, that means its chat service is live right now. And so the staff will do their best. And if your question is something that maybe a librarian can help you with, they'll forward you on to me or possibly one of the other education librarians, and we'll be able to get back to you as quickly as possible.
So if somebody would like to contact you directly for help, what would the process be for that? Would it be to go through here first, or should they just contact you?
Either way, you can contact me at CCARPAN. I'll put that in the chat here. So my last name is Carpan, so it's CCARPAN, and then at ualberta.ca. If you forget that, or you forget my last name and you can't find me on the library homepage, you can just go through the basic chat or email service, and they'll get you to me either way.
I was just checking my calendar. I am booked every single day prior to that next session. But for those of you who might be interested, how would Monday the 17th be? Like we could do a 4 to 5 p.m. Come chat about your topic with a cup of tea. Would anybody be interested in that? Because I'm actually good Monday or Wednesday, the 17th or 19th. So if one day is better than the other, let me know. Not the Tuesday, unfortunately. Well, I can set it up both Monday and Wednesday, and then it can just be drop in. Let's do that. So what I'll do is I'll set it up, and you'll see it on the website within the next couple of days whenever they get that put up, but you can just kind of tentatively stick it on your calendar. And if anybody wants to come and just chit chat about our topics, whichever program you're in, that's fine by me. And know that I am not a qualified librarian whatsoever. It's just a bunch of colleagues sharing our ideas and expertise. And Carolyn, you're welcome to join us, but no pressure whatsoever. We can chat too.
So if you want to send me the invitation, then I can see what my calendar looks like. And then if you have some examples that you want to bring to the session next week, that would be helpful. Yeah. I can use some of the examples of the kinds of topics the students in the course were researching last summer. I suspect, you know, the kinds of questions you guys may be asking may have evolved since last summer. There was a lot of focus on online and blended learning. People were still thinking about what and how they tried some new things in the online environment. And so that was a pretty big focus of everybody's work last summer. So I'll be interested to see what you're thinking about. And if I don't get to see you on Monday, I will see you I think our session is Wednesday, and we will,
I think that's partly why my week is so full. There's lots of different types of sessions. Yeah,
sure.
that's
sure.
great.
And so, you know, put on your thinking caps and see what you might want to look at from maybe what you did over the school year, or something new that you want to try in your class maybe next year. And then we'll go from there, and we'll see what's available in the research literature. And I'll show you how to search the databases to find that material.
Well, thank you so much for being here, and you're really being a fantastic mentor to all of us. And so I want to give you a round of applause. I'll do it like for real and not with an emoji.
Well, thank you.
Okay. Thanks for coming, everybody, and have a good evening and all the best as you start to think about these things.
Yes, thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
Bye. So Janet,